Here's an update on the lighting system for my Starship build. I finally got it all finished up. It took a while. It took about 3 days of getting it all sorted out, but it came out pretty good. It's all done. Oh, dropped the wire. The way it works is when you power it on, you've got the navigation lights that are the slow flash, and then you got the strobe lights, which are the faster flash. You have about 5 navigation lights and about 3 strobes happening. The yellow light indicates that the impulse engines are on, and that will light the deflector dish, and the big crystal on the bridge will be lit yellow when you turn it on. And when you hit one of these buttons, you'll notice the yellow goes away and it turns blue. That will make the deflector dish go blue, the crystal on the bridge go blue, and then the engines in the nacelle, the middle part here, will have a blue LED in it, which will go from black to blue. And then if you hit the button again, the blue will fade out and the yellow LED will come on, which will light up the deflector dish and the crystal on top, as well as when you're in impulse mode with the yellow, the impulse engines will be red, and when you hit the button, the impulse engines will turn off and then the warp engines will come on. I also added a button here for 2 photon red lights that will go on. Every time you push the button, the photons will light up. The hardest part to get going was the floodlight sequence. In the motion picture, when they first see the ship, all the lights come on one at a time to kind of light up the whole ship while it's in dry dock. And I recreated that, and let me plug in my my floodlight array, and I've tied it into my Arduino. So right now all the floodlights are on. So there's floodlights on the nacelles, on the body of the ship, on the saucer. There's actually 7 positions all around the ship. So what I've got is when you start it up, here I'll hit reset, your flashers will start going, and then it'll start lighting up the ship one at a time until it does all 7 sequences, and then the deflector will come into impulse mode and turn yellow, and that'll be kind of standing in dry dock. And yeah, it took a while to get, because I'm running all these off 12 volts, so I had to use a Darlington chip, which is like 8 small transistors. It's an IC chip that you set up so you can run these off 12 volts, because the Arduino Nano puts out tiny little voltage signals. It doesn't have much power. So what I had to do is I had to take the little signal, run it into the Darlington chip, and then whenever it saw a signal, it would hit a bridge, which would turn on the 12 volt circuit. And this is great because each circuit, I've got 8 of them, or 7 of them, or 8, I think 7 or 8. Each of them are about 500 milliamp. So this way, because these floodlights aren't just 7 of them, they're like a couple here, a couple there, a couple, you know, they're all over the place. And I'm going to try and put the navigation lights, a slow blinker, on the Darlington chip too, because I think there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lights on that circuit. So I'd love to run it off one of the Darlington transistors. That'll give me half an amp to play with, which I should be able to do like 3 or 4 starships with that much power. But if you want to see it again, I'll reset it. Strobes come on. So this is when you would turn on the model. and then all the floodlights would come on in sequence, all 7, and then the impulse engines would come on. Now these floodlights coming on in sequence are timed exactly to what the movie showed. So in the motion picture, when the floodlights came on, there was a timing sequence of the lights turning on, and these are timed exactly the same way. So now all I have to do, once I've got my circuit all built, I just have to assemble it on a circuit board. So the breadboard is kind of like my prototyping, just to get everything working. And then I'm going to put all the electronics on here, solder them on, and all the lights, the LEDs themselves, won't be on the board. They'll be just wires coming from the board, and they'll be out throughout the ship. So, you know, you'll put the lights wherever they need to go, and they'll be wired to the circuit board, and this is going to sit under the base somewhere. And then I'm going to have a power switch to turn the model on, which will run through the sequence. Then I'm going to have a warped impulse button, which can change it from impulse to warp. And then I'm going to have my photons button. You hit the photon button, and the photon lights will come on and off. Yeah, I spent more than 3 days. I spent a lot of time. I had bits of code that I was using, and there were bugs in it. And I had to basically break the code apart and get individual pieces working, and then you know, put it all together. And then there were still bugs in it, and the Darlington ship, figuring out how that's going to work. That was a nightmare. And these switches here, getting these to work, because these input switches actually go into the Uno Nano, and when you push a button, it sends a signal into the Uno telling it what you want it to do. And so they had to be all set up correctly, and then I've used almost every pin on my Nano to make this setup work. I was going to do sound, but I've basically run out of pins. I can't add the little it's kind of like a little micro card holder that plugs into your Uno, and you can play sounds with a speaker and stuff. But the only other way I could do it is by getting a second Uno, Adreno Nano, and putting it beside it, and then kind of running them in sequence. But that could be tricky to set up, so we'll see. If it doesn't have the sound, it's not the end of the world. I'm pretty happy with what I've got here so far. Now I can start building the ship again, and that's my update for today.